We welcome our fellow listeners to this program, Amba This Week. It is the first edition, and we will be talking to the leader of the Ambazonia War of Independence, the man who took himself down to the ground and launched the War for Independence, a campaign against colonization by La République du Cameroun on the people of former British Southern Cameroons, now called Ambazonia. Dr. Lucas Cho Ayaba. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks, Samuel, and thanks for having me.
We have been following up the events of the week, from the just concluded senatorial elections to the murders of the Bamukumbit students of the University of Boya and the attacks on Cameroon's convoys using IEDs. I have 5 questions from the people of Ambazonia to you. But before I ask these questions, I have a question of my own. My question is about the murder of 2 university students in Boya by Chief Moja Moja himself, a Bataillon d'Intervention Rapide agent of La République du Cameroun's armed forces. He murdered these 2 boys and claimed that they were Amba boys and came to Boya to cause chaos. What is your take on that?
I have seen the report of the killing of students in the University of Boya by La République thug called Moja Moja and his security agents. It is not the first time that we are losing students in the hands of these invaders and their enablers in Ambazonia. We recall vividly that almost 6 years ago, there in Boya, students were raped, some were wrapped in mud, their dignity was attacked. We recall 10 years or so ago, Folem Gilbert was shot at point blank range, still at the university. That's where I went to school, and the horrors that students have gone through in that university is something that we have not properly documented. And that university is just a pigeonhole of the tragedy that Ambazonians have been facing in the hands of Cameroon. And we are documenting and gathering evidence of the crimes that they are committing against our people. And this evidence will be used against them now and in the future. I extend my condolences to the families of the murdered students. And I have directed Comrade Akosong, the Secretary for Human Rights, to be able to document exactly what has happened so that we draw the attention of international human rights organizations and governments of the barbarism of the regime against our people. But the ultimate solution in ending this level of impunity is to expel La Republic from Ambazonia. Every other solution that we seek is temporary. We must find a permanent solution to the crimes that Cameroon continue to commit in our country, and that is to end the occupation. All crimes stem from La Republic's insistence to govern us by force, exploit our resources without reciprocation in development, and to turn us into their slaves. Freedom of speech is denied, freedom of movement is denied and curtailed, the right to live in peace and dignity is denied. The reason why people establish political institutions over a nation is to ensure that those institutions guarantee their safety. And when those institutions fail to meet those obligations, the people have a right to overthrow those systems and establish new ones. And that's the journey that we have started in the last 6 years. And I can assure Ambazonians that these pains, these murders will be accounted for. But the greatest accountability we can have for ourselves, those who've been killed, deprived of their liberty, is to establish a free, independent, and sovereign Ambazonia within which our constitutionalism, our political system, economic system will guarantee for our people and future generations a life in peace and dignity.
What do you say to the accusations that the Ambazonia Defense Forces is working for La République du Cameroun?
Thank you for the question about, I call it desperation. I don't even call it accusations of people who say the Ambazonian Defense Forces is working with La République. One of the tragedies of life under deprivation is the fact that people refuse and fail to believe in themselves. That's how when we're in school, you find students, they go out, they read, and they have good grades. And others are failing, and they would sometimes start accusing the ones with good grades as though their parents have gone and taken medicine from somewhere. That's why they are doing good. You find when we're in school, you want to go for prep, like reading in the evening, and you take fufu, you eat, and you go, you sit on the bench for 30 minutes, you start to sleep. And your parents start complaining, you're accusing aunties, accusing uncles that my son, my daughter has been bewitched. Each time my child takes the book, the child starts to sleep. Science has given us an opportunity to examine why things happen. That the notion of fetishism and accusing others has not helped society to evolve. You know, we've seen this scenario in many disciplines, whether it's in football. You train, you will be good. They build good sport infrastructures, that discipline will develop. And at the beginning of this war declared on us, one of the first things we wanted to do was to give people the reason to fight. We gave them the reasons to fight. That's why I was out every day explaining the historical injustices against Ambazonians. And I traveled right down into Dadi, gathered thousands of men who stayed in the jungle under difficult circumstances. I myself, I went into the jungle there in Biafra land looking for stakes. I moved men from all over the territory. They came in there, and I went there to commission them. The defense chair traveled in there. Chairman Kavi traveled there. The SG of the ADF traveled there. We worked hard. What you see you call the ADF is a product of hard work. It's a product of the student who spends every time studying. And these lazy people cannot believe that in the wretched space of Ambazonia that has been bedeviled for 62 years, that a group of men will rise up and be so powerful with so much strong conviction. I also understand the leadership of the AGOC understands the international system. That when you are in a struggle for liberation, it's important to identify yourself. Take responsibility for your actions before the enemy defines you. So the next thing we wanted to do was to give the ADF uniformity. When we could not get boots, we gave them changshoes. They were called changshu boys. We took that accusation, we own it. Later we realize the actions they take, it's important for us to define those actions. Otherwise, the enemy will define it and we will be on the defensive. I was on Radio France International to accept responsibility for the actions of the Ambazonian Defense Forces. Then we realized, because we are fighting for our own country, we needed to give them uniforms to distinguish themselves as the army of the people, carrying their flag. We gave them a code of conduct, like a constitution, to define their actions. We did everything. So those who were thinking that they would take over Ambazonia, sitting behind TV desks and shouting on Facebook, could not believe that in this same Ambazonia that, they are claiming it will be independent, that they could be a force, they could be a General Ivo. When they could not blackmail General Ivo, when they could not recruit him to come and join them, they blackmailed him. When they could not recruit him, they betrayed him. Same with General Efang, others. Same with Ayaba. They wanted to turn me into their boy. They wanted to turn the master into their servant. When I rejected it that all of us should either be servant or all of us are masters, they began the tale of blackmail. You don't win by blackmailing. You win by preparing a better model. Some of them have started learning. When we got uniforms, they say, oh, you must be guerrilla warfare, you don't have uniforms. They lack the concept of military doctrine. Later on, they join in the case of uniforms. We got a jeep to demonstrate power and control. They say, oh no, you cannot get a military jeep. It was given by La Republique. We've started seeing them. We got RPG, they complain. We got machine gun, they complain. We got IEDs, they even call us terrorists. It is born out of fear, lack of preparedness, frustration, and it is being engineered by the enemy. The enemy is exploiting their grievances, he is exploiting their fear and giving a perception of reality which is false. The Ambazonian Defense Forces is a force defending the homeland. It is recognized internationally through the World Bank reports, through BBC interviews, through investigations by Sky News, through CNN, through France 24, all SABC. Only the people in Ambazonia who think they are entitled to power think by destroying the ADF in the interest of La Republique, it will destroy Ayaba. You cannot destroy Ayaba because I'm a spirit. So let me assure our people, the Ambazonian Defense Forces, like all of the other forces, are fighting for the defense of the homeland. All of them fighting for the. Some are manipulated, exploited. And lastly, even those who accuse us, I have sympathy for them. And as I had said before, we should pray for them for redemption and salvation. They attack us for working with La Republique. They themselves open their own mouth and talk how they. A key strategy in our liberation, a key pillar in our liberation, economic sabotage, stopping the enemy exploiting our resources to buy guns. They had a deal with the CDC. They had a deal with the CDC. I don't want to explain all of the other things that we know because it benefits the enemy. This is not some campaign to become president where you can destroy the image of one person in 2 weeks and then you win an election. Everything we say against each other cannot destroy that person. It benefits the enemy. What destroys us is your inability to prepare, to anticipate, to work hard. If your strategy of liberation is bringing down others, is having your boots on the neck of your own comrade, is killing others, you may destroy them at the end of the day. You'll be left alone, weakened to face an enemy that will destroy you.
What steps will be taken henceforth as La République du Cameroun claims not to have authorized nor taken part in any initiative in Canada?
Concerning the steps we are taking after La République claimed, or some individuals, I would say some individuals in La République claim, they did not take part in Canada pre-talks. I have said repeatedly, time is on our side. It is not us who have gone to beg La République. It is our resistance that has compelled La République to find an exit to a war it has lost. And let me assure the Ambazonians, the same reasons that push them to go through the Swiss, to go through Canada, those reasons still exist and they will only aggravate. La République must understand it takes recklessness to declare a war against a peaceful people. It takes courage to recognize the mistake and to negotiate your exit. Ambazonia is not in a hurry. We are in our land. I have said repeatedly, we will throw them out on the battlefield and we will exact a victory approach that they will never ever forget. It is time for La Republique to know all tyrants have gone down badly at the detriment of their countries. Ambazonians should not be in a hurry. For 60 years, La Republique has engaged in charade, whether it's electoral charade, negotiation charade. It talks with teachers and lawyers, end up arresting them, kidnapping them, torturing them, butchering them. That has come to an end with this generation. We are also armed. We control territory. We have access to resources. We groom ourselves in the art of negotiations. This is a new generation. And the earlier La Republique recognizes that reality, the better for La Republique. We are ready. And we think the commitment they made in Canada still stands true today as it was a few weeks ago. When they are ready, they have access through the networks they use in getting to us, and we will be ready to have a conversation based on the root cause to establish long-lasting peace based on justice that will benefit both Cameroon and Ambazonia. Otherwise, there will be no Cameroon in a few years' time. We've suffered a lot. We've tried everything. Created political parties that went for elections. We won municipalities that were hijacked. Went on the street to ask for pluralism, the right to speak, to vote, peaceful assembly. Work hard and pay taxes that were never used in development. The Belt Four Walls, which PTAs then sponsored, produced kids that could not have jobs. We've tried everything in a peaceful way. Cameroon has rejected those approaches. They declared war on us when we had nothing. Now we have armies. We will fight them to the gates of hell until the last soldier of La République du Cameroon walks back across the Mongo or is shipped in a coffin. They can talk themselves out or run themselves out. The choice is theirs, it's not ours.
We have noticed a rise in the activities of so-called black legs who aid the enemy in killing our people. What solutions can we implement to curb this?
You know, what we call black legism, which I defined earlier on as enablers, is a time-tested phenomenon in conflict situation that the enemy will use the vulnerable within our society to be their trackers, to be their sellouts, to be their betrayers and their traitors. After World War II, the Germans installed a fake prime minister in Norway. The Germans took over Norway. They took a Norwegian called Quisling and installed him as prime minister. When true Norwegian patriots took back their country, that guy was executed. The same with France. When the Germans rolled their tanks into France and de Gaulle and the others took to the safest shores, they installed a guy called Pétain. We know what happened to all traitors, big or small. And we have opportunists. We have opportunists in our land that are working with La République du Cameroon. They are called black legs, ladies who cook for the enemy that butchers our people and burns our home, men who are used as trackers to show where our forces are. You have communities, chiefs, funds that are betraying the dream of a people. It is not unique in Ambazonia. I have said before, there were more blacklegs in Algeria in their war of independence than there were patriots. In South Africa, there were thousands and thousands of blacks who sided with the whites against their own for the interest of tyranny, for the interest of segregation and the regime of apartheid. In all of these cases that I have cited, the triumph of democracy over tyranny was experienced, the triumph of freedom over tyranny was experienced, the triumph of independence over occupation was experienced. We have people like John Fronde. Where does he live today? Who is more powerful? Is he Ambazonians or John Fronde? Where are all the so-called parliamentarians? Why are they in armored cars? Why are mayors living in Douala? Why are mayors hiding at bunkers at up station? Why are DOs hiding in different places? We are powerful. We may not have helicopters, we may not have armored cars, but we have something which is more powerful: will and courage and a just cause. These people who are betraying us are Ambazonians. Why will you betray your own country for a country that has given you nothing other than death, destruction, and hopelessness? At least, if you will betray your own country for a country that has developed yours, for a country that has given you opportunities, one would understand the rationale for that betrayal. Why will you betray your own country for another that kills your people, that deprives your people of opportunities? We will have a special cemetery for them. And beside that cemetery will be another one. That where heroes will be buried. And the cemetery of traitors. Where every traitor, no matter where you are buried today, the Oben Peter Ashes, we will dig your grave and bring you to the cemetery of traitors. So the next generation will go there every time and read the names of those who betrayed Ambazonia. And they will tie those names to their grandchildren, to their great-great-grandchildren. So if you are family, if you are coming from the Moja family, one day the great-grandchildren, if you are coming from the Achidi Acho family, the great-great-grandchildren, if you are coming from the Agbobala family, the great-great-grandchildren will come in that cemetery and realize the great-great-grandfather, the great-great-grandmother was a traitor. You are putting a stigma, an eternal stigma, in the name of your family. And that's greed. For what? For crumbs of bread. For what? For nothing. For impunity. So I encourage Ambazonia to acquire courage and conviction, and that despite our difficulties, we have been able to show the world that this is an enemy that has to be defeated.
Corruption and embezzlement took over the struggle. This saw huge amounts of funds, which were meant for defense and humanitarian activities, disappear. How do we handle this and hold these so-called leaders accountable?
On the issue of corruption and embezzlement, it's a cancer. It's a cancer. The basis of corruption and embezzlement is the absence of systems and structures of accountability. When you establish tyranny, when you establish a systems where there is first political corruption, where there is lack of transparency, if you join the struggle because you thought it was a platform where you can have opportunities in terms of political power, you can mobilize money, and then you start engineering a system of corruption and lack of accountability, the only people you can equate to traitors are those who steal money from the common coffers that were supposed to be used for the defense of the lives of millions of people. And I'm not only talking about financial corruption. Those who even appoint people in exchange for money, those who place people in strategic positions so that they can use those positions to give them unwarranted power and access, are worse than even the traitors who are betraying, Ambazonia. One of the greatest tragedies we face in the continent of Africa is that of corruption. That monies that should have been used to invest in education, in free education, in a free health system, in a clean environment, has been diverted in the accounts of individuals. They've wasted the monies in foreign hotels, foreign bank accounts, in a luxurious lifestyle at the detriment of millions of children who cannot go to school, millions of people dying on a daily basis because they lack Nivaquine against malaria or typhoid. And so the corruption we have witnessed in our struggle is a testament, to the lack of conviction in those who are in leadership position. Its foundation is also the reasons for which we are up in rebellion against La République. That La République has established a corrupt political and financial socio-economic system where elites, people put in positions of power, have swindled money for their own interest. We will hold each and every one accountable. Those who have embezzled money, whether you are soldiers on the ground, whether you are political leaders, middlemen, monies that should have been used in the acquisition of materials for the defense of the lives of our people is so sacred. It's so sacred. It's like having your own child on a sick bed, and monies that you're supposed to use in buying medication, you take that monies and go into a bar and get drunk. It's like having your own child in a sick bed and the mother uses the money to buy heels or buy a gown for a party. It's not only the presence of lack of responsibility, but it's wickedness. And I think the new Ambazonia that we are fighting for, if you steal money, if you loot public treasury, if you divert funds, if you overestimate projects, the arms of justice will rain on you like the thunder from Oku. And so Ambazonians must know what we want tomorrow. We must begin to practice it now. If we want accountability in a new Ambazonia, that accountability must start now on how we run our organizations. If we want a society that is void of corruption, we must establish political organizations that are not corrupt. If we want transparency in a new Ambazonia, it must begin now. We cannot say we practice vice now and practice virtue in a new state. It's not going to work. What we conceive, what we conceptualize, what we believe in now will remain the basis of the new nation. And the foundation of our beliefs, of our conceptualization at this particular moment, must be a reflection of the kind of society that we want.
As a consequence of embezzlement, many Ambazonians no more contribute, and they claim they don't trust leaders anymore. How can we gain their trust and get our people fund this war to its final conclusion? Can we fund it on our own without external help?
I totally disagree that Ambazonians don't contribute because of embezzlement. If that's the case, there will be no Ambazonia that gives bribe to La République police officers and gendarmes officers. There will be no Ambazonia that will still pay taxes to La République, to Cameroon, because it is not us saying it. Transparency International classified La République as one of the most corrupt states in the world. We are also aware, I think Ambazonians know, that not all leaders are corrupt. Not all the political organizations that operate on the basis of liberating Ambazonia are tainted and corrupt. So any excuse for not committing to your own freedom on the basis of the attitude of the people and the institutions you belong to is simply an excuse, and it's not a justifiable excuse. A people who are committed to freedom, who believe in freedom, will never turn away. Take note, in the great strides of development in the world, the people who went to the moon, there were tragedies. People have never stopped going to the moon because Others died on the way. People who launch into space never stop going into space because others have died on the way. There are freedom struggles that have failed, and other freedom struggles have never stopped fighting for freedom because others have failed. We have been brought in a system where we are reactionary. We agitate for a very short period of time. We look for shortcuts. The struggle for freedom have no shortcuts. You must endure pain. You must persevere. You must sacrifice. And you shall never use the limitations of others as an excuse to your non-commitment. I want to let Ambazonians know that in the past 6 years, we have been very consistent in appealing to our people to avoid propagating, sustaining institutions that are corrupt, encourage individuals who are corrupt and divisive. We have made it absolutely clear that our struggle for freedom must adopt principles at this particular moment that will be replicated in an independent Ambazonia. And the Ambazonian Governing Council is the most transparent organization in the continent of Africa, politically and financially and otherwise. We have built an organization that can hold people accountable for deviations. And I can assure our people that that's the kind of country we are fighting for, that we will establish. And we cannot give up because some bad seeds are corrupt. Christians know. You go to some churches, you have corrupt pastors, corrupt priests, priests who rape children, priests who embezzle money. Those priests are not the pathway to your salvation. Salvation is a commitment, if you're a Christian, to the person who gave his life for you. If you're a Muslim, to the one who also is the symbol of the reason why you adhere to that faith. The justness of our cause, the sacrifices of our people who have died, who've lost their liberty, should be the basis of the commitment that we make. We have also shown that those who commit, financially and otherwise, are able to see the work we do. We have built an army on the ground. It might still be limited in its scope, but we have an army. You see them manifest on every 1st of October. You've seen them defend the land. We've established community schools. We have built an impeccable curriculum of education. We are working on e-learning. At this stage, the education department is working day and night. We've established the ATLA, Ambazonian Transitional Liberation Authority, that is building bridges, paving roads. We're providing loads of support to IDPs and refugees. So Ambazonians should not forget the good things that have happened in our struggle in the past 6 years. We cannot and should not look at our limitations and judge the thousands and thousands of men and women who are committed to our liberation on the basis of those who've committed infractions.
Dr. Lucas Cho Ayaba, leader of the Ambazonia War of Independence and president of the Ambazonia Governing Council.